Hey everybody, how's it going? Thiago here and welcome to another video. Happy Sunday. Did you have a nice week? I hope so. And if you are new here, I created this channel to help intermediate and advanced learners of English speak with more confidence, more accuracy, more clarity, and more awareness. So if this sounds like something you want for yourself in your English, subscribe to this channel and follow the videos week after week. All right? I have here a story to tell you, to read for you today. And after I read the story, I'm going to explain some vocabulary and pronunciation from the story, okay? But the main point of this video today is for you to listen to a story. Listen to a story in English, okay? And the story is about a vampire. Yes, a vampire. I'm going to do my best to interpret, to perform the story here. I hope you enjoy it. And I just want to say, sit back and relax, sit on the couch or lay down in bed. If you want, you can close your eyes, or if you prefer, you can watch me, but just listen and enjoy the story, okay? It's about a vampire and a young couple, all right? As a matter of fact, this video is also going to be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as part of the podcast, because since it's a story that I'm going to be reading here, this format fits very well with audio. So for those of you guys who also listen to my podcast on Spotify and Apple, this video is going to be available there as well. So you have a bonus episode on the podcast this week, all right? So I'm going to start reading the story here. In terms of level, guys, I would say that this story is between A2 and B1 level, okay, in terms of vocabulary. And I actually got this story from the British Council website, okay? I'm going to share the link to the story, to the page later in the show notes and also in the video description here if you want to go there and have the text version available. You can also download the PDF for the story there, all right? But here is the premise, let's say, the one-liner about this story. Check it out. When a vampire visits a happy young couple, will true love save their lives? Let's see what's going to happen here, all right? So now, let's read the story. Getting myself ready here. Enjoy. David and Emma looked at each other across the table. The young couple were happy. The food was delicious. The light from the candles was soft, and the music was perfect. David looked at Emma's beautiful smile. All the pain of his last breakup disappeared. All his doubts and fears about love had gone. His hand reached out and touched hers. I want to ask you something. David searched her eyes. Could she guess what was coming? Her smile made him feel brave. She held his hand. Don't worry, whatever it is, I'll probably say yes. He felt so excited. He was about to ask the most important question of his life. From the corner of the restaurant, a strange man watched them. He sat very still at his table. He held a menu, but he wasn't reading it. Instead, his cold eyes looked only at the young couple. Back at their table, David suddenly felt nervous. "Excuse me," he said to Emma. He pushed his chair back and went to the toilet. As he looked in the mirror, he told himself, "Come on, David, come on. You can do this, mate. She's crazy about you." Feeling ready, he went out of the bathroom. He almost walked into the extremely tall man who was waiting by the door. The man's eyes were a cold, bright blue. His face was pale, with a sharp, pointed nose and thin, pale lips. "Oh, sorry," said David. "Which one?" the man hissed. He spoke with a strong and strange accent. David had never heard that accent before. For a moment, David was confused. Then he realized what the other man meant. "Oh, this one," said David, helpfully. "This is the men's toilet." David went back into the restaurant. He reached for the ring in a box in his pocket. It was time to ask her. The taxi ride home was wonderful. The happy couple discussed their future life together. They shared their sweet feelings about each other. "The night I asked you to marry me," said David. "The night I said yes," replied Emma. "Just think, our whole lives together. Sharing, caring," he began. "Loving, giving," Emma finished his sentence. They smiled at each other in loving excitement. "You are so wonderful," said David. "And you're absolutely beautiful," said Emma. "I've never met anyone so lovely and kind. I'm so happy I could sing." They entered their block of flats holding hands. A tall man watched them from the shadows. "Which one?" he asked himself. He watched the building. He was waiting for a light to come on to show him which flat was theirs. 1 minute passed. 2. There it was. The light went on in a third-floor window. He saw Emma for a moment as she closed the curtains. How many times had he stood on a corner like this? How many victims had he watched? Many corners, many victims. His pale lips formed a thin smile. He moved out of the shadows to the door and pressed the buttons for every flat. The vampire was always pleased when people lived in flats. Sooner or later, someone always let you in. Silly humans. They thought you were someone's pizza delivery. It was a kind of invitation, and that was all he needed to enter a home. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and walked down the hall. He didn't make a sound. He could hear the young couple laughing and talking. He put his ear against the door. He could hear what they were saying, and he was happy. Young love made the sweetest blood. It was so full of life and energy. "I feel as if I'm in a film," she was saying. "More like a dream," he replied. "Yes, a dream. How lucky are we?" "Guess who I'll be dreaming about tonight?" he said. Who? Her hair smells of roses. She's like an angel." Their dream was about to become a nightmare, the listening vampire thought. Suddenly, he opened the door and stood there, showing his sharp teeth. The couple screamed and then held each other in terrified silence. The vampire could smell and taste their fear. This was how he liked it. Fear also made the blood sweeter. "There's my wallet on the table. There, take it," said David. "Take anything you want." "I will take anything I want," the vampire replied. Fine, we won't stop you, I promise," David cried. "You won't stop me, I promise," replied the vampire. The light shone on the sharp teeth. A terrible thought came to David and Emma at the same time. Look at his teeth. Is he a vampire? "Which one?" the vampire hissed. "It can be only one." The couple's eyes were big and afraid, their mouths open in horror. They held each other's hands and their stomachs filled with fear. "Already tonight," continued the vampire, "I have drunk from 3. One more, then I can sleep and feel young again. The vampire moved towards them. Instinct made David step in front of Emma to protect her. Emma gratefully held onto his back. The vampire wasn't in a hurry. He had plenty of time. Who should he attack? He asked himself. Which one? Thank you, Emma said quietly in David's ear, for what you're doing for me. Of course, my love, I'm here to protect you. He felt proud as he said the words. He could fight this vampire. All he needed was a piece of wood or something to push through their heart. He looked around for something. You're so brave to offer yourself, continued Emma. Sorry? Asked David. What are you talking about? Oh, said Emma. I just thought that with your love for me and everything. David and the vampire looked at each other. Now, listen, Emma, there is no doubt about my love for you. Really? She replied. She didn't believe him. But you can't expect me to just give him my life. I wasn't saying you should, she said. It's just one of our options, that's all. Well, think of another one, he shouted. Why don't you offer yourself to him to save me? The atmosphere in the room has certainly turned ugly. The vampire was not pleased that the fear and love were now silly, selfish arguments. Emma was very angry. I hope you're joking. Let's see how strong your love is. What a horrible man. What about the woman I was planning to marry? Offering me to a vampire like a bone to a dog. You said my hair smells of roses, she cried. All right, relax. David was a little embarrassed to be having this argument in front of a stranger. I'm an angel, you said, she carried on shouting. Must drink, shouted the vampire angrily as he came even closer. He wanted to make a quick kill, then he could get away from these terrible people as soon as possible. His eyes opened wider and his teeth were bared. Which one? Her! David pointed at his future wife. Him! Screamed Emma in anger. Please, him! The vampire approached David. She's younger, sweeter, said David. The vampire turned to Emma. He's bigger, there's more of him, she pointed at David. Suddenly, the vampire felt tired. He had been killing for many centuries. Listening to them was depressing. How could he feel good by drinking the blood of either of these disgusting creatures? He looked down at their terrified faces and shouted, Bad blood! And with that, he disappeared into the night air and left Emma and David alone together. Together, as they had promised, for the rest of their lives. The end. Woo! Nice, right? I hope you guys enjoyed this story. So in the end, the vampire wanted to consume one of them, but he gave up because, he was getting tired of all that silly argument that, couples get into sometimes. Very nice, right? Guys, to conclude this episode or video here, I want to just point out some nice vocabulary from this story. I'm not going to talk about everything, but just a few things here. The name of the story is called Bad Blood. Okay, Bad Blood. In the story, the vampire refers to their blood as bad blood because he wouldn't be happy drinking those people's blood, okay? So it wasn't fit for consumption. But the expression bad blood means when there is a lot of anger, resentment, hatred between two people or a group of people. For example, those gangster movies, like The Godfather, for example. What usually happens in those movies is you have groups of gangs that are always fighting each other or in war with each other. We can say that there is bad blood among those gangs. Okay, so bad blood is like, this hostility, this negative feeling of anger, of hatred. Nobody likes anybody. Okay, this phrase from the story right at the beginning, talking about the vampire at the restaurant, he sat very still at his table. So when you sit still, you don't move, you are still. Okay, you sit still, you don't move. All right. Another phrase here that I thought was interesting. He almost walked into the extremely tall man who was waiting by the door. So when you walk into somebody like this, you almost accidentally bump into the person. Okay? You collide against the person. Imagine you are walking or running and you're looking at your back. You're looking back, but you don't see that there's a person in front of you. If you're not careful, you're going to walk into the person who is in front of you. Okay? So is this idea of colliding with somebody else. Still talking about the vampire here. His face was pale with a sharp pointed nose. So a nose, think of a nose that is pointed, okay? And thin, pale lips. So your lips are in your mouth, right? You have your upper lip and your bottom lip. And the vampire's lips were thin. Thin, not thick, but thin, small, okay? And the word pale. Pale means colorless. There's no color. Usually vampires, they are pale, right? They look white. They don't have that natural human color that we are used to seeing, right? So pale. You can use that word, for example, when you are sick. Sometimes when we get sick, we get so sick that we look pale, yeah? Like without that vivid color, all right? Now, many times throughout the story here, the vampire asks which one, okay? And then there is a word. The story goes, which one? The man hissed, all right? Hiss, that's a verb, to hiss. Let me read the definition of hiss for you. To hiss is a verb that describes the sound produced by forcing air through a small space, usually between the teeth, tongue, or lips, to create a noise that resembles a prolonged S sound. It can be a sign of displeasure, anger, or disapproval. And it's often associated with animals like snakes who use hissing as a warning signal. You know that song, that song, that song was funny, right? That sound that the snake makes, like, this is hissing, okay? In human communication, people may hiss to express disdain, frustration, or to intimidate others. So in the story here, the vampire hisses. So the way I picture this is the vampire has big, long teeth, right? I picture the vampire hissing through his teeth. So almost like he doesn't open his mouth so much. He leaves his teeth closed, and then he speaks like that, like, which one? Which one? You see? That idea. This is hissing, okay? Very nice word. Another part here, he climbed the stairs. Okay, he climbed the stairs. Remember that the pronunciation here, guys, is climb. Okay? We don't pronounce the B. The B is silent. So I don't say climb. Climb. Imagine there's no B and you pronounce the M instead. M. So climb. So here is he climbed the stairs, not he climbed the stairs. Just like you climb a mountain. You climb a mountain. You don't climb a mountain. Or Spider-Man. Spider-Man climbs buildings. He doesn't climb building, okay? So the B is silent here. As a matter of fact, this is a little rule. It's a little rule, okay? words that have this M-B combination usually have the B silent. So climb, bomb, okay? There's a bomb here, not bump, okay? Comb, I comb my hair, not comb, okay? So M and B combination, the B is silent, all right? Moving on here, there's this sentence. David was a little embarrassed to be having this argument in front of a stranger. When you have an argument with someone, you have a fight with that person. It's usually a verbal fight, actually. It's usually a verbal fight, okay? You have an argument with that person. Be careful not to say discussion or discuss. You discuss with someone? No, because when you have a discussion in English, that's actually good. It's a conversation. A discussion is a conversation. For example, right now we are discussing here some aspects of the English language with a story. You see, a discussion in English is a conversation. It's not a fight. If you want to communicate the idea of a fight, use argument. I am arguing with that person, or I'm having an argument with that person, okay? A more advanced word for argument could be altercation, okay? Altercation. The altercation could be verbal or even physical, okay? So when I was walking on the street the other day, I saw two people having an altercation. In other words, arguing, having an argument, having a fight, okay? Finally, his eyes opened wider and his teeth were bared. Talking about the vampire. So his eyes opened wider, larger, okay? And his teeth were bared. When you bare your teeth, you show your teeth, okay? Usually like a smile or pulling your lips backward, like this, you know? When you show your teeth clearly, you bare your teeth. Think about an animal, maybe like a lion, a tiger, who is about to attack. They usually bare their teeth before, okay? Or I also think about the Joker from Batman. You know, the Joker is always baring his teeth because, you know, he smiles all the time. He laughs all the time, right? So that's the idea. That's the meaning of to bare teeth, or his teeth were bared, like they were clearly shown. You could clearly see the vampire's teeth. All right, guys, that's it for this video and episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story. I hope you didn't get too scared. And I'm going to leave the link to the story in the show notes if you are on Spotify or Apple, or also here in the description of the video. It's on the British Council website. Just go there. You can download a PDF of the story with the whole text. And I think they also have some questions to test, your comprehension. Okay? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow the show, and I'll be talking to you very, very soon. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.